Now we talk about another important element of making all this work, and that's the city and the city fostering this kind of development in New York City. So we're lucky enough to have with us Dr. Carlo Uvienko, who is the Assistant VP for the New York City Economic Development Corporation, dedicated to the Life Sciences Initiative. Including network of supporting incubators, training programs, all the things that we're talking about here today under the city's Life Science New York City initiative. And talking about the ability to do the life sciences program in a broader array of places as opposed to when we did the Genome Center with Nancy. Dr. Uvienko was instrumental in crafting the joint zoning clarification memo issued by New York EDC on behalf of both Department of City Planning and Department of Buildings, which allowed for a broader usage of the life science space in New York City. Prior to his role at EDC, Dr. Uvienko completed a postdoctoral fellowship at NYU, focusing on the commercialization of biosynthetic drugs at technologies. He's also the author of numerous publications, and he's held research positions with the Paul Corporation Life Sciences. He earned his BE in chemical engineering here at Cooper Union and his PhD in biomedical engineering at NYU. Dr. Uvienko, please come up and join us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you to our hosts at Gensler. Thank you, Jim. And thank you, Nancy, for inviting me to speak here on behalf of the city and NYC EDC. It seems from the morning's talks already that a lot of you are familiar with NYC EDC as a quasi-government organization responsible for deploying a lot of the economic development levers on behalf of the city by way of the Deputy Mayor's office. So I won't belabor that point too much. Just a quick reminder that we are responsible in large part for managing a lot of the real estate holdings of the city, 66 million square feet, give or take, disposing and acquiring new land, as well as leasing and managing the long-term land leases on behalf of the city. In addition to that, we also support large programs, initiatives like the Mayor's Life Sci NYC initiative. And so to step back a little bit and give you a little bit more about my background, although that was a very good introduction, thank you very much. But with my EDC hat on, and less so my scientific hat, I was recruited into the EDC at the beginning of 2016. Most of that year, actually, was in lead up to the December announcement that the mayor made on December 13th. And a lot of that year was spent building up that argument and that thesis, informed by an infrastructure study that was conducted in 2015 through 2016, assessing both the demand side of the life sciences market here and the innovation economy with respect to what's happening in our academic medical centers. And then connecting that with the potential for the supply to be met for commercial life sciences real estate. At that time, the only commercial life sciences real estate that could be pointed to was the Alexandria Center in terms of a large swath of a cluster. And that's a momentous achievement on behalf of the EDC, I should mention, and they continue to be a very good partner. But in terms of the earlier stage support, I think we had a couple of experiments go right in certain ways that prompted us to now double down on life sciences, which included some of what we were learning from the SUNY Downstate Incubator, which was a 40,000 square foot incubator near Kings County Hospital and the SUNY Downstate Medical Center. Harlem Biospace, with its very humble 2,100 square feet, I think what that showed us is that there was a very strong pipeline of early stage innovation in New York City to capture and then also to grow and support. And so the infrastructure study told us that there is going to be a gap, a financial gap with respect to developing life sciences in New York City, given the real estate prices here, as well as the high developmental costs of the real estate product. And so that's where a lot of the incentives that the city deployed are meant to plug in. And so In 2016, December, we launched a $500 million plan that was comprised of $300 million in IDA, Industrial Development Agency, tax abatement. That also includes mortgage reporting tax waivers, as well as sales and use tax on any construction materials associated with a life sciences project. But a large bulk of that benefit would come from the real estate property tax abatement on private land. And so that is meant to bridge that development cost gap in life sciences. That is an active program that's on an application basis, rolling application basis. So for any of you who are interested, that's roughly a 6-step process that's governed by the typical IDA process, but can be expanded to Manhattan core, unlike a lot of other IDA projects, given the policy objectives of life sciences and wanting to grow that sector. In addition to that, we have $150 million in city capital that's provided for nonprofit. And those nonprofit clients are divided into two sort of buckets of projects. One is $100 million. A lot of you know or are aware of the R&D, applied R&D Life Sciences Hub project, which was RFEI'd earlier this year. I'll have a little bit of Q&A in a little bit, but safe to say that's an open procurement, so can't really opine on that at this point. What I can opine on is the $50 million that's left over on the city capital piece. And this speaks to what was just alluded to, which is the innovation engines of New York City, the academic medical centers, as well as our research institutions like the Genome Center, like the New York Stem Cell Foundation. And so that $50 million, what we're planning on doing with that is shoring up the innovation capacity of our nonprofits here and how to accelerate the development of commercial technologies out of there so that they can take residency in Scott's projects in Harlem, but also take residency in Nicole's project in biolabs, which we're thrilled about. And I'd say one of the things that we're really looking for in any of the projects that we do in life sciences is a shared conviction that this industry is taking off and that there is that right substrate to capture value from. And I think Nicole embodies pretty much that complete conviction. Couple of the numbers. So if this all goes right, over the next 10 years, we'll activate 16,000 new jobs in this sector alone, with 2.8 million square feet of additional commercial wet lab real estate. At this point, the momentum is looking like it's surpassing that, but time will tell as the dust settles on where the projects come to fruition. I think what we've solved for in the near term is that incubator space. After Biolabs activates and fully launches this winter, we'll have over 150,000 square feet of incubator space across the city. So that's definitely a great pipeline of companies to grow, but now we need to activate that near-term growth stage space. And that's where we're looking forward to working with a lot of you in the room on helping solve that problem and that need. The long-term vision is much realized by the RFEI Hub project, which is that $100 million challenge, plus city-owned land. And then two other incentives I would want to mention before concluding and opening it up for questions are the Build NYC program, which is a route for financing with tax-exempt bond financing backup for nonprofits that are looking to do infrastructure projects in the city. And so that can be below market rate debt for those projects. And then lastly, we are contemplating and exploring means to benefit tenants and their fit-out costs in your sites and in your projects, allowing them to take on that burden of building that first-generation lab space that may not exist in your sites right now. That's still something of an exploration. We haven't yet fully announced that or stood that up, but open to having those initial conversations with you if you're interested in that program and getting involved early. And lastly, I want to say thank you again, Nancy, for this opportunity. I think what the NYC Builds Bio Plus team is trying to achieve in terms of building this community of real estate and science is really transformative, and the testament to the panel today and its composition. And one of the values I see that it can bring is informing policy and how policy is executed. And so with that, I'd like to open it up for questions and comments, if you have any, that might help us as we execute on this plan in the next coming months. So any questions?
So what's the process if you have a tenant that's coming to you and you need to build out lab space for them? What is the process by informing yourself about the subsidies that might be available from the city?
Well, one of the things, so if it was a tenant that was off the street and didn't come either with a broker, or maybe they did, we would ask, well, what are the sites that you're interested in looking at? We're fairly site agnostic at this point when a tenant comes to us and we're considering a benefit. And we go through the numbers with them. We address both the scale and the cost of the project, as well as their needs, not just from an infrastructure perspective, but also from a community perspective, and whether there'll be good community players in a particular site or a particular cluster.
Are there any subsidies available for the base building improvements that you need to accommodate that tenant?
That's up for negotiation and typically on a case-by-case basis with the IDA executive director.
Hi, are your incentives tied at all to the city's neighborhood focus or investment areas of zoning focus or investment plans?
Right now, I would say that they're considerate of each other, but not fully coordinated. Yes.
Do you have parameters on project size or limitations on benefits besides I know the programs do?
Yeah, so the IDA benefit is really meant to activate larger projects in that near and midterm, and by its nature, it's meant to activate, let's say 100,000 square feet in that ballpark, right? It could be smaller, but again, that's on a case-by-case basis, discretionary. Is it going to activate a 15,000 square foot suite within a building? Probably not. It's not the best use of the IDA instrument just based on the amount of effort that goes into that. For one, it would require a conduing of that site in order for the financials to flow in appropriately. So that's with the IDA side. In terms of the project or the program that we're exploring benefiting the tenant, that is a little bit more flexible and can be smaller scale on the order of 10,000 square feet or even less potentially. Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you again.